qualified graduating seniors performing at the NGJF. So applications are available at their booth. All right. So our next vocalist has a really cool name. Her name is Taiga Min.
Hello, hi.
And let me just tell them where you're from. Okay. She is from East Bay Center of the Performing Arts, from Oakland. This is Taiga.
Yes. Hello. Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Yeah, so music has been a part of my life since I was really young, but one of my first experiences of it being like the really cool, like, artistic thing that it is, and just beautiful experience overall, was in my 7th grade classroom at Oakland School for the Arts. We were learning about Ella Fitzgerald, and I was just so blown away by her technique and her passion and everything, and so that song became the first solo I ever transcribed. I'm sure you've heard it many times at this festival today and before that, but I'm really excited to be sharing that with you all today. So this is In a Mellow Tone. thank you. And I featured Andy, right? Okay, Andy on drums. Okay, so the next song I'll be singing is by the wonderful Bessie Smith. And you know, she was around in like a really tough time in the 1920s, and that was really hard for everybody with the Great Depression and everything, but also like especially for marginalized people. But she was always just such a strong and free spirit, like in every sense of those words. And she really, like, everybody around her knew that she had this like energy about her that was just so captivating and things like that. So I'll be singing one of her tunes today. Yeah, and this tune I think really just captures how she was ready to live free without judgment and free without shame and things like that, even in a time that was so limiting. And yeah, so I hope you enjoy. I also wrote some of my own lyrics to kind of relate this to my personal experience. So yeah, I hope you enjoy. This ain't nobody's business. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I should take a motion and jump into the ocean is a spiritual expression of what I am. And I was really inspired by this quote because I've always tried to find like one passion or one purpose to like dedicate my life to. Recently I found just so many things in my life that I'm so passionate about that keep me like wanting to do and be better every day. And music is absolutely one of them, like it was for John Coltrane. So yeah, I'll be performing one of his most beautiful ballads written about his wife at the time. And I'll be sharing lyrics by my teacher, Tiffany Austin, who wasn't able to make it today, but I studied with her at the East Bay Center for the Performing Arts in Richmond. And yeah, I hope you enjoy. This is Naima. On bass and Andy on drums. Thank you so much for having me.
Taiga Min. Our wonderful adjudicators are going to come up and give a few comments. This is Carrie Marsh, Michelle Weir, and Michael Mayo.
Thanks, Janice. And thanks, Taiga, in the rhythm section. Really, really lovely to have heard you today. I really enjoy your first of all your connection with the music and that you've studied it and you know, your banter is really helpful, I think, in your performance, and it lets us know that you've been looking into like deeper layers into this music and understanding it in that way, and we really appreciate that, I think. It's lovely. You're really doing well utilizing the strength of your chest voice and a very powerful focused sound to come across with a pretty expressive energy in your sound. So I think that's also lovely. And what I want to contribute really is the first thing sort of out of the gate at the beginning of your set. If you had done it in a different order, that wouldn't be the case necessarily, but I relate to this as that's a thing. It's a thing that I do a bit, which is I'll talk very quickly and then breathe just for the purpose of not passing out, really, but not providing space necessarily, you know. And that I think is what you started doing a little bit. And that was a bit of the phrasing at the beginning of your song. And you know, you can shorten some of the note lengths at the ends of your phrases to give yourself time to just kind of groove for a bit. A day, a do, da. So that's a thing to consider there, to break that up a little bit and make it to where you're breathing, and then maybe you can even breathe again before the next phrase in that kind of a casual, you know, kind of way. But yeah, your execution of Ella's solo on that I thought was very, very nice, and it was cool. And it's cool then that you lead directly into your own soloing. And with that, I would say you can take a little bit more from the content of the solo that you've just transcribed and performed, particularly in terms of your articulation, your scat syllable articulation. It's a double-edged sword that I'm going to give you. Well, I, on one hand, want to say you can diversify your scat syllables a little bit, but that's dangerous, of course, for all, as we're learning scat singing, we sometimes get too diverse, and it's bashubayo, squibo, we don't want you to go there. It would just be put a little, like give yourself another tool to work with to more fluidly articulate your lines, instead of kind of, you know, one that you're consistent with. So just staying fluid with that, but also staying very conversational and relaxed with your syllables and your articulations will help you. Really wonderful, expressive performance. Thank you.
Hi, Taiga. Nice to meet you. I wanted to ask you a question first. Is this your usual rhythm section that you work with? Okay. So are they from your school? You're probably not. You're a senior at least. Because I thought, you know, I agree with Carrie very much that you really have a good sense of command, you know, as an artist up here, you know, kind of a benign yet strong leader, you know, like you're with everybody, but you know, you're really running the show up here in a good way. That feels good. It's a nice sense. Can we practice the first count off once? Would you just count it off? You guys don't need to play, but yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I just want to hear your count off.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, good. Just can I just give you a little subtle idea? That seemed a little more assertive, actually, than what I remember. But still, yeah, I guess not too much needs to be said because that was pretty good. But you definitely always, what I heard before was that it seemed a little too mellow for what you were looking for. And my thought is that we want generally to count off in the way we want them to play. So if you want it sassy, 1, 2, 3, 4. And also you want to do the kind of look around a little bit. Just a sense of, or sideways, count off, something that says, hey, here we go, everybody. Just, it was, I didn't notice it on the other songs, I just did on the very first song. The much more important thing, and I won't go on too long here, but what Carrie was talking about the breaths, have you ever encountered that comment from other, like every time? Okay. Are you a person that likes to talk, generally?
Yes, very much.
What a surprise. Such a surprise. Here's what I heard. Can I be really direct with you? Because I think it will help you. In my opinion, what I heard, especially on Mellow Tone, but really on all 3 songs to some extent, but really on Mellow Tone, I heard in a mellow tone, feeling fancy free, and I'm not alone. Okay, so there's a couple of things about that. First of all, we don't need to hear the breath so much. You know, we could a little bit sometimes, but be cautious that, you know, you're not doing that on the microphone. But the most important thing is you're attaching your breath to your release on every phrase, almost literally on Mellow Tone. So what happens with that? Well, then there's no space at all. And even on Naima, it wasn't there all the time on Naima, but it was sometimes. You know, you'd release this beautiful, lovely long line, and then immediately take a breath in. Not only do you not get a chance to be at peace and to rest, but it doesn't give the listeners a moment to be at peace and to rest. So just in short, I encourage you to practice, you know, sometimes release, no breath, no breath, no breath. I'm ready to go on now. Just have those silences in between. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Tyga. Yeah, so I would also just echo what Carrie and Michelle were saying. The one thing that sort of stuck out to me during your improvisation was the 2 syllables that I heard you mostly saying, which were D and oo. Both of which, as their own thing, are fine, right? But in the absence of any sort of variety, it sort of can get a bit monotonous, right? And you could be singing the most beautiful lines and the most like harmonically complex stuff, but if you're only singing 1 syllable, then you sort of lose a bit of like, you know, interest. It's like, I could be saying the most captivating thing in the world and I could be talking the most incredible philosophical thoughts in the world, but if my voice is a complete monotone, then you're gonna lose interest after a while, right? As opposed to if I like go up a bit, take some time, maybe get a bit louder, a little softer, a little lower, then it sort of engages a bit more there, right? The other thing, I think that, I almost said Nardis, Naima is a really great song for you, and I felt a lot of really cool dynamic contrast when you were singing the head in and the head out, but less so during your solo. And I think that's something that you should try to keep in mind more when you're soloing. And also, there's a lot that can be done with your rhythm section in terms of interaction. For example, can we try something real quick? Can we just play, let's do just like a little bit of the solo on Naima, and I want you to think about, I want the band is already listening really well, but I want us to be a bit extreme with it. I want you to experiment with dynamics, be it loud or soft, you can choose what you want, and I want you guys to respond right away with what you're feeling and what that does to how you play. So you can go ahead and count it off.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4.
We'll go to an ah here, something with ah. real quick, I know we don't have a ton of time. I just wanted to show you one quick thing. I'll just do the same thing I'm talking about real quick. So I'll be a bit over dramatic with it. So 1, 2, 3, and. Do da 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 do da 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 do da. Right, there's so much room, and you don't. The notes themselves, like obviously the notes matter, and the notes are kind of the most obvious thing to go for, right? But there's so much more that you can do. You can sing one note and just change the dynamics and change the syllable, the sound, and it totally changes the landscape, right? And you could feel that, right, in just that little bit of time. So that's something that I would encourage you to experiment with. Yeah, but sounds great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.